off your cell phone. We're going to say a quick prayer. I was given 32 seconds. All heads bowed, and please consider holding somebody's hand, but it's okay if you don't. Give you a second to grab a hand here. Please, dear Lord, accept the fact that I know two things in this life. That there is a God, and I'm definitely not it. And dear Lord, I'm certainly the least among you to stand before you today to lead us with prayer. But you give us hope by reminding us the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. So hope abounds always with a faith and trust in knowing our God. And to the kids, it's really about the kids. I just want you kids to know that God wants you to know that potential, as Emerson said, is in you is new in nature. And nobody knows what you can do until you try. We have angels among us today. I talked to many of them this weekend. And on Granddaddy's tombstone it says, be careful, you might entertain angels and not know it. So listen to your potential in your heart and have a passion in what you do. And God will direct you through the Holy Spirit. And He will lead you to great things. But have a passion in what you do. Love what you do. To heck with everything else. And remember that we all have so many shortcomings. You list your shortcomings on one side, God says. You list the great attributes that He brings to the game, like faith, hope, and love. So you get over your shortcomings by understanding that love is the greatest of those three. That we should love our God with all our heart, mind, body, and soul. And one last thing, Uncle Dick said, find where your main roots lie and do not hanker in other worlds. So we ask God to direct our young people and our old people. And He doesn't care about age. To find, even at an early age or an old age, where your roots are. And don't hanker in other worlds. And in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen.
Amen. Well, first of all, I'm Pierre McFarland Russell, son of Walter Brown Russell. And anyway, Uncle Jed would always say, Pierre McFarland Russell, who discovered the world July 1st, 1943. I'll always remember that. And of course, that great voice, we are gathered here. We are representing the Walter Brown Russell family today, and it's a great privilege. Somebody told me that this was the 64th consecutive reunion. When was the first reunion? Was it 35, or does anybody know?
At least 33, I know.
33, okay.
But I don't. That
amazing.
may not be the first.
I think the very first one was 1926.
Yeah, it was earlier.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Anna really lobbied all her children, not all the children, but a lot of the children had spread out, and she got them all back here in 1926.
Okay.
And there's some pictures made of the family at that time. And the next one was sometime in the 30s.
Okay, thanks, Sally. I was talking to my brother a couple of weeks ago, and he said, what are you and Cecil going to talk about? What's your theme going to be? And I said, we're just going to tell some stories about Mother and Daddy stories. And he said, those are not repeatable. And then he said, are you going to tell the truth?
Hey, of course.
And
If you don't, we will.
and I said, you know what Daddy always said? He said, never let the truth interfere with a good story. But I do have a couple of good stories about Mother and Daddy. But Daddy was the third son of Richard Brevard Russell and Ida Dillard Russell. I think he was the eighth child. In Sally's book, Heart for Any Fate, she talks about how Daddy did not get along as well with Grandfather Russell as the first two sons, and I can understand that. And then she also mentions the fact that he was rebellious, and he he was adventurous, and he had a high temper. All that's very true. I think he ran away about 10 times before he was 15. And I remember him telling me that Uncle Rob usually had to go get him and find him and bring him home. Well, what a change from, having Uncle Rob and Uncle Dick and them doing exactly what they were supposed to do and studying the law and devoted to their parents, and then here's Daddy. His first trip, one of the longest hitchhike trips that he ever did, was out to Oklahoma to work in the oil fields. But his longest journey was he actually went to Argentina on a freighter, and I think he was about 18 or 19. And they say that they were going to send Uncle Rob to go get him, but Uncle Rob just said, that's too far. When Daddy was about 19 or 20, he moved up, he went up to Washington, D.C. And I think he went up there because my mother was up there, and he had his eyes on her. But he also had offered to work for the A&P company. For y'all that don't know the A&P company, the AMPT company was like the Publix of today. And they were all over the place. They were grocers. But what was really, he had a great life in Washington. He was pursuing his dreams of being a professional boxer. He would work at the A&P about 6 days a week, and then he'd work out at the gym 4 or 5 nights a week. And then he would have a fight, usually on Friday or Saturday night. He actually became a pretty well-known fighter in the D.C. area. He had a few, people that followed him around. And, he was this broad-shouldered kid from Georgia, and he was just, he was good-looking, and he had 30 professional fights, and he only lost one of his fights. And I have one of his newspaper clippings of the fight he lost. And let me go back just a bit. He would fight in these venues. They were like huge tents. They would hold maybe 400 or 500 people, and they were filled with smoke. And maybe that's why they call them smokers. But the one fight he lost was against a fighter. Y'all are gonna love this name. Called Sweet Willie Brown. And Sweet Willie was from Tampa. And I have the newspaper clipping. Oh, one other thing. He fought under a pseudonym of Bud Logan. And that was his fight name. And the reason he did that was he was afraid that Mother's parents wouldn't like him if he was a professional fighter. That was kind of tacky. It wasn't something that people did. So anyway, getting back to the one fight that he lost, and it wasn't that notable, except that the newspaper probably wouldn't have written about it, except that the crowd rioted after the fight, and they threw chairs in the ring, and they had to call the police. And what happened was, Daddy said that he knocked that the first 2 rounds were pretty even. In the 3rd round, he knocked Sweet Willie Brown down 2 or 3 times. And at the end of the fight, when the bell rang, his opponent could hardly find his corner. But guess who they gave the fight to? Sweet Willie. And when that happened, the crowd just went completely bananas. And they did have to call the police. They threw chairs. Anyway, that was his boxing career. I think Daddy's greatest adventure was, you guessed it, marrying Mother. And she was definitely high adventure. And I don't think he knew what hit him, really, but he did survive. And Mother was so unique. Believe it or not, just like Grandfather Russell, my mother's dad lost his first wife and a little girl in his first marriage. And he went on just like people do, and he married again, and they ended up with five 5 boys and one girl, my mom. And as you can imagine, she was just adored and treasured and pampered, and you know, it was like somebody gave her the keys to the castle and she just wasn't going to give them up. But so she was very important in that family. She was very pretty, she was very smart, and she was used to getting her way, as a lot of y'all probably know or heard about. A couple of notable things about my mother, she was a world-class bridge player. She would come, duplicate bridge, she would come home from tournaments and talk about playing with Charles Gorin and sitting across the table from Omar Sharif, who wrote a column, and she was really world-class. People would call her and fly her out to the West Coast, say, if there was a big tournament, just so they could have somebody that was good to play with them, so they could get points towards being a life master bridge player. And she was one of the other things that she did. She was an incredible poker player, and I mean serious poker. I mean big game poker. And most of the time, you know, she was the only woman in the game. And I just remember Mother one time when I was about 12 or 13, sitting opposite me, and she was, you know, teaching me a little bit about cards and poker. And she was shuffling the cards, and at the same time she was smiling at me. And I just felt like, oh man, I'm just so out of my league here, you know. And anyway, she taught me how to play. She taught Jeff how to play poker too. Jeff is a world-class poker player. Talking about poker, Joe Clemens has a mother poker story. Joe?
This took place about 60 years ago. Walter Russell and I were second lieutenants in the 82nd Airborne Division. And one Saturday night, somehow we got to Charlotte in a poker game. And they took our money. We had to be back for Reveille Monday morning. Well, we were going to run out of gas, so we encountered a gas station. Of course, it was closed. This was about 2 o'clock in the morning. So we pounded on the door, and the owner came, and we said, give us $1 worth of gas. Of course, in those days, you got more for your money. Anyway, he wasn't too happy. We continued on. We got back in time. We were running for the formation, the Reveille formation. I was. Tripped over something, fell flat on my face in front of the battalion. Did you have anything to add, Walter? No?
You said enough.
Anyway, he and I went on to, at that time, we were not married, Cecil and I, yet. We got married and had a 30-day leave, and then he and I both went to Korea. And Cecil and I did not have a single argument in our first year of marriage. That's about it. I'm just
Made up for it.
I'm just here to give Pierre and Cecil a little fight.
Thank you very much, Joe. one other little thing about Mother that she taught me that I'll always remember. She taught me a little bit about credit and money. Remember, I was about 14, and I wanted to buy something, and I didn't have enough money, and I asked Mother for $300, and she said, you know, Pete, I'll give you the $300. And I thought, well, wow, this is so easy. And she wrote the check to me, and then she said, but you know, you have to pay me interest. And I said, what's interest? You know, you're 13, you don't know what interest is. So she explained it to me. But anyway, for about 15 years after that, we had this borrower-lender relationship. And it was like having a gold mine. All I knew was that if I paid her back when I was supposed to pay her back, she'd figure the interest up, and I paid her the correct amount, that I could always go back for more. And it was like, wow, what a concept! You know, this is so great. And all my friends, I tell them my mother was charging me interest, and they thought that was really weird. But she had explained to me that was the money that she was getting from the bank. But it was such a wonderful lesson. And anyway, she taught me that debts are sacred things, you know, and that was really important. Mother and Daddy were married 1st of January in Washington, D.C. A couple of days less than 9 months, Emily was born. So they were very anxious to start their family. We were A&P nomads. Daddy was working for the tea company, and it was, I didn't really realize that we moved that much, but it would be in Greensboro, and then if the MP had a store that was in trouble, they would send Daddy, and then they'd move us to maybe Wilmington or Durham or Raleigh or up to Williamsburg or back to Hendersonville or down to Greenville and then over to Greensboro. It was, I mean, I think we must have moved once every year and a half. Of course, that was before, you know, they were so happy. They were young, and they were starting a family, and they were just having a great time. And that was, they actually thought they'd finished their family, but I surprised them a couple of years later. I'd like to ask y'all, does anybody know when the first A&P store was started and where? If anybody can tell me that, I'll be...
1906, San Francisco.
No, you know what it was? It was New York City, Vesey Street in 1859. And we were an A&P family. I remember Daddy telling me that. I know my important dates in American history. No discussion about Mother and Daddy would be complete without being really honest and telling you a little bit about their fights or their passions and all. And Mother's credo was, revenge is the best form of forgiveness. And most of their fights were about either imagined or real deeds that my daddy did. And I mean, years passed. I mean, we're talking 20, 30 years. And I remember one night, I was about 15. Daddy had two really nice Hickey Freeman suits that he was really proud of. And this is a horrible story, but Mother went in with a pair of scissors and cut the pants legs off of Daddy's suits. And I remember going in there with Daddy, and he held up his suit, you know. There were no legs. And he said, I guess your mother doesn't want me to wear the pants in the family. Mother's epitaph is just right over there, and I wrote it. I'm very proud of this. I can really say that I've written something in stone, but her uncommon spirit enriched our lives, and her uncommon spirit enriched our lives. And It's so true. It's so true. And both of them were really uncommon. And they were passionate and sometimes with flaws. But our house was filled with books and music and laughter and loud voices and strong opinions. And I'll always be really, really grateful for that. That's all. Thanks.
Graduates. New graduates.
Pete asked me to help him. He didn't know he was going to get long-winded, or maybe he did. I'm Cecil Beeler Russell Clemens. When Pete asked me to help him, he didn't realize, I guess, that I would be long-winded, or maybe he did. Anyway,
Go in front. It's okay.
with a little story. It's a southern girl, very southern, who hadn't traveled, got a job in New York. And her cousin, or a friend, was driving her around to look for an apartment. And she came down from the first apartment, and she was crying. And the friend said, "What happened? Did the manager do something?" And she said, "Yes. He didn't ask me where I was from." And the other thing that people used to say all the time, but we don't now because we moved too much, is after they found out where you were from, they'd say, "Who are your people?" Well, I think, who are our people? Well, I'm going to answer my own question. You are our people. I are our people. Walter's our people. These children, all of us, are our people, each other's people. And we just are so somehow know that. We are supporting, nurturing people. We celebrate each connection. And not only in June's Hot Georgia Sun either. I have whistled making pallets on the den floor for my children, and then making up their beds with clean sheets for our people who were coming, even if it was just a surprise visit. Mother and Daddy were my heroes, but I really didn't know what a hero was, but this is the best word I can come up with. They were, I have to use my glasses and notes, I'm told. They were mysteriously untouchable, beyond understanding, and infinitely obeyable.
We know that.
And I think Aunt Marguerite was one of them.
Yes.
I couldn't have told you then what hero meant, or to anybody else even. But finally, when it became clear to me, there was only one explanation. And it was their aliveness. They were so alive. And so alive, I guess even when they were asleep, we'd look in the room and nobody went in there. It was just the heroes. You didn't bother. Alive, alive. Alive, oh, is that a song? I don't know. My bigger than life parents dance their lives to Sousa marches, Beethoven, and the 1812 Overture. They didn't know how to do any other way. Of course, I never figured out what page we were on. Did you ever hear about Daddy's special pet rooster? No. Really? Daddy was the original, or one of the original animal whisperers. And he had a pet rooster that he taught, really, to sit on the hood of the car, and Daddy would drive around the block, and the rooster would stay on there. And the rooster's name was Tarzan. I remember being in the kitchen full of people, and Daddy said, "Dead rooster," and Tarzan just fell over on his head. It was amazing. When you think about Daddy and Mother and how they grew up and all, this is kind of surprising, but not knowing it. Our neighbors across the street, the Harrisons, who was an English professor, William and Mary, invited Daddy and Mother to be part of their Shakespeare club. And they were big hits, and they enjoyed it tremendously. Our mother, Dorothea, not Dorothy, Dorothea Beeler, was born in Atlanta, grew up in Washington, D.C., a city girl, always a city girl. She had never made a bed or cooked. Her parents loved to travel, and the children were sent off somewhere to schools, I don't know where, except for Mother. In 1922, she was 16, and the city girl was sent down on the train to Forsyth, Georgia, to a Baptist girls' school named Betsy Tiff Academy. Okay, here she was, transplanted into this foreign place. At the first assembly, which was primarily to introduce the new students, the headmistress said, "Does anybody dance?" And Spirited Dolly jumped up out of the front row and waved her arms and said, "I can do the butterfly," and demonstrated. Well, she was sent to the office, of course. And then when they found out she smoked, she was on the train back to Washington. When Mother wed Daddy, as I said, she had never cooked or made a bed or done anything like that. She was a tennis champion, but she embraced and conquered her new life. Dolly was her nickname that she went by mostly. She became a renowned cook and hostess, and she made each of the numerous places we lived, traveling all around, in an A&P family and in the Army as well. I don't know what to call it, kind of a nest. We were home, and no sofa in our house was ever off limits, no matter what the upholstery was, as long as you were reading a book. And if you were reading, you could escape any kind of task. That was good. I have a little game that I play, making up descriptions of people or events. It's just something I've done for a long time. Here's Daddy, a smiling, singing, blue bulldozer wrapped in cotton candy. And here's Mother, a authentic size Statue of Liberty made out of winds, W-I-N-D-S. I have come up with other ones, but those are the ones I can think of. I have heard, somebody could set me straight if it's incorrect, that there's an old Jewish traditional saying that someone has, as long as people are talking about you, you haven't died. Have you heard that? Anyway, I think that makes me think, how could these two not live forever?
Patrick, your turn. Take your turn.
Hello, I'm
Thomas.
Patrick. I'm his son. Patrick Russell. We're gonna do our introduction now. So anyone who has any new babies can come on up.
Yes, new babies.
I can't believe I'm the only new baby.
No, you're the first.
Well,
I'm getting on it, Grandma. Don't worry.
Thomas, get a picture.
I'm Ina Russell, Walter and Dolly Russell's child. My daughter, Honor, and her husband, Art Martin, had a baby daughter, May 8th, and she's gorgeous, and her name is Tabitha Parker Moses Martin.
I'm Robert Green, son of Craig and Danny Green, grandson of Richard B. Russell III, and Nancy Patricia Russell, great-grandson of Robert L. Russell and Sybil Millsaps Russell. This is my wife. This is my wife, Becca, Rebecca Daniels Green. We've been married 3 years, and this is our son, Thomas Brevard Green. He was born April 25th, about 2 months old.
Parents of a daughter born January 22nd this year. Her name is Ann. What's her middle name? Scott. Ann Scott Campbell. By the way, I'm the oldest son of Thomas H. Campbell and Emily, and the grandson of Walter B. and Dorothea B. Russell. And Ann is fine. We had a little confusion on the dates this year, the reunion dates, and they're unable to be here. And I'm so sorry for that, but we'll bring her in tow next year. Thank you very much.
Good job.
Okay, now, are there any new graduates?
Hey, Thomas, speak into the microphone. Because he's standing away from it.
Dorothea and Walter B. You're the grandmother.
I'm
They're your
Rose Carly
great-grandparents.
Ingram. I'm the daughter of Russell and Christy Ingram, the granddaughter of Mary Ina and Judge James Ingram, and the great-granddaughter of Rob and Sybil Russell. I just graduated from Sandy Creek, and I'm attending the University of Georgia in the fall.
I'm Jamie Campbell, daughter of Tom and Diane Campbell, granddaughter of Emily and Tom Campbell. Emily and Tom Campbell, and great-granddaughter of Dorothea and Walter Russell. And I graduated from Greater Atlanta Christian, and I'm going to UJ in the fall.
I'm Walter Brown Russell III, oldest son of Walter Brown Russell Jr. and Nancy Hinton Russell, and grandson of Walter Brown Russell and Dorothea Beeler Russell. I'm really happy to be here. I'm here to announce my oldest son, John Alexander Russell's graduation from Pomona College over in California. He got a bachelor's degree in mathematical economics. He is not here today, unfortunately. We tried to get him here. He is putting his advanced mathematics degree to fine use right now deep in the New Mexico wilderness, working as a wilderness guide. He decided that studying mathematical economics was so stressful over the last 4 years that he needed a break from that, and so he's out working. Actually, he's a trainer of other wilderness guides in New Mexico, and that'll end in the end of the summer, and we're not sure what he's doing after that, and I'm not sure he's sure what he's going to be doing after that. But at least he graduates. So we're happy to be here. Glad to see everybody.
Son of Walter and Dorothea Russell. And we're proud to announce that Anne-Marie graduated from chiropractic school, Life Chiropractic, last September. She's practicing in Charleston and actually recently went to Austin to consider buying a practice out there. I don't know if that'll work out or not. So we're very proud of her, and she's doing wonderfully and really likes Charleston. And I'm going to get off topic 1 second. I'm not supposed to do this, I know. But this is to talk about Teresa's dad. He was honored as a hometown hero. He was the author rendered on the Missouri. And so they put him up, people there in a convertible, recognizing the fact that, and it was one of the most exciting nights of my life. And so I'm real proud to be part of it. And one last thing, my name was almost Jeff Dorothea Campbell. Name any babies after her. So Pete in high school and stuff, they said, well, if you'll change your name to Dorothea.
This is just a quick little aside. I'm sure you've noticed the American flag. That has been put here because Daddy was very, very proud of having been in the Army, and he loved the Army and he loved serving. So that flag is an honorary thing for Daddy and all of you. And Michael was in the Air Force and did quite well flying his big plane.
My name is Hartford Beeler Campbell, son of Thomas Campbell and Emily Russell Campbell, grandson of Walter Brown Russell and Dorothea Blackie Russell. Blackie was her fine nickname, we call her. I had Teresa Charm. I had 3 graduates. I ain't here to borrow money. Hartford spent 9 years getting out, Little Hartford. He graduated August 10th in acupuncture in Boone, North Carolina. He's going to be an acupuncturist if he can pass the board, so say a prayer for his study. Thomas Bruce Campbell graduated from architect school in Clemson a few weeks ago. So it's the first year I'm over 4 of my 4 babies not being here. Thomas is in Denver looking for a job. Catherine's in Wyoming. And the other graduate of business at Georgia, he's in one class right now. So let him walk out.
I'm Sue Schultz, Cecil and Joe's daughter, and my second daughter, Makana Cook Clemens, graduate major in history and a minor in anthropology. She's going there to celebrate with Lay's.
I'm Teresa Campbell, grandson of Tom and Emily Campbell, aka TC and Mama Bear. Introduce Lan, Philip Campbell's beautiful wife, Tori Nicole Achin Campbell. Got married September 8th up at Lake Lanier and honeymooned in Aruba, and so glad to see everybody.
Okay, so we're going to end this with just a little closing prayer. Dear Father, we thank you for what you give us, for letting us come to you anytime. Thank you for our gathering family. Amen.
Thank you.